here in this digital learning space with our special guest, Dr. Michele Borba. We are so grateful to have her join us this morning as we discuss relevant issues on parenting and educating children, especially during troubled times. So I know you are all excited, and I'm sure Michele is excited as well. But before we begin our get together, I would just like to make a few announcements and reminders. So we will be recording our session this morning, and it will be made available to the public. In case you prefer not to turn on your cameras, that is perfectly understandable. It would be great, however, if you would like to ask Dr. Borba a question directly, if you could please turn on your video and audio for a more engaging session. For those who would like to ask a question directly, please use the raise hand function and I will call on you. You may also type your question in the chat box if you would prefer that I ask her for you. As a special bonus for your family and friends, we will be extending the early bird promo until Easter Sunday, so that's tomorrow. If your friends register by 5 p.m. tomorrow through the exclusive link that we will share with you in our chat box, they can avail of the discounted rate. And if you know of anyone who can benefit from the conference, feel free to share the link in the chat box and share with as many friends and family as possible, as we wouldn't want them to miss out on this rare learning opportunity. I am pleased to announce that all participants will get a 10% discount on Dr. Borba's books on Selfie and Thrivers, as well as other parenting titles. Just go to fullybookedonline.com and check out the collections page for Thrivers, or click on the link in the chat box, which will lead you to the landing page where all the books are. Make sure you enter the promo code FB. So that stands for Fully Booked, FB Thrivers 2021 upon checkout to avail of the 10% discount. The promo code will only be available from April 13 to 18, 2021. So grab a copy during that time. And last but not least, please stay on after the session and join us for a selfie with Dr. Borba. We wouldn't want to miss documenting this momentous occasion. So I'll give you enough time to get ready for our selfie. To get things started, allow me to give a brief introduction of our esteemed guest this morning. Dr. Michele Borba is an internationally renowned educator, award-winning author, and parenting child expert, recognized for her solution-based strategies to strengthen children's character, resilience, and to reduce peer cruelty. She is an NBC contributor who has appeared 150 times on the Today Show and countless shows, including these shows you're probably familiar with: Dateline, Dr. Phil, The View, NBC Nightly News, The Doctors, Anderson Cooper, and many more. Dr. Borba is a former classroom and special education teacher with a wide range of teaching experience, including work in a private practice with children with learning and emotional disabilities. She received a doctorate in educational psychology and counseling from the University of San Francisco and a master's degree in learning disabilities. We are so grateful and blessed to have this opportunity to interact with the Dr. Michele Borba herself. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you Dr. Michele Borba. Hi, Michele.
Oh, hello. My gosh, what an introduction. I'm just so sad I can't be there. I've had the joy of being able to come to the Philippines, I think 4 times now. And every time I just absolutely relish it, and look what happened. But at least we have Zoom. So I can't wait to meet you all again.
Yes, we're looking forward to that. That's another thing we can look forward to after the pandemic. And to get things started, we're living in troubled times right now. A lot of educators and parents are concerned about so many issues that children are facing. So we have an increase in anxiety, depression. There's a lot of stress for the children, especially with online schooling. Most of our schools, practically all schools, are conducting classes online. There's fears of the virus. We have students who have experienced death of loved ones. We've also seen students with lower motivation. How can we as parents and educators help children during these moments of high stress?
I think number one is we need to recognize that our kids are hurting, and it's not just Youth Philippines. Yesterday, I was talking with Dubai. Next week, it's Hong Kong. Ireland just called in. It's across the world, and rightly so. This has been an unprecedented time. The first thing we do know when uncertainty rises, anxiety, us as well as our students and our children, also increases. So, number one is stay as calm as you can, please. The most important thing that we've discovered actually is after the Blitz in World War II, is they followed how children fared during unbelievable bombings nightly, air raid sirens going off. And those children who had parents who were a little calmer actually did okay themselves. So the first thing is take the breath yourself. The second thing is anytime you can stick to rituals, parents in particular, stick to the rituals because they create certainty in your child's life. So anything that you can do to build that in, please do. Third, please give your kid permission to share their feelings and don't try to talk them out of their feelings. They're going to be sad or they're going to be scared or they're going to be frustrated all over the plate. Any failing is normal and fine, but how glorious if a child knows they can come to you. And then I think one of the things we'll be doing in the sessions when we're together is talking about ways that we can build protective factors with our kids, helping them learn self-control and regulation. There's dozens of ways to do it. But one thing you may want to do, parents, it's fascinating. They've actually discovered that resilient children are more likely to have hobbies, meaning they have a time to just go to something. It could be music or it could be guitar. It could be books. It could be bubble blowing. It could be art. Is there one thing your child can go to? Is there another thing that you can do of maybe put in soothing music in your home? In your home, can you create a calm down corner? And have your kids actually create it with you. And it'll be fascinating because the kids will, you'll be able to look at what your teen likes versus what your 3-year-old likes versus what your 5-year-old likes. Don't buy anything, everything you already have. But it could be pillows or beanbag chairs, put it up against a corner. And it could be nothing more than, for some kids, it's going to be stuffed animals. For other kids, one kid told me, I have to have my goldfish in my goldfish jar because I just love watching him go round and around. For some kids, it could be music that's downloaded onto an iPad. I'll just tell you one thing, that I was just interviewing dozens of teens across the US. And I asked this precious kid, Natalie, who was 14, I said, what do you listen to, Natalie? She said, Mozart. I've discovered it's really soothing. It doesn't work for my brother, it works for me. And when something really good happens, I crank up Elton John, I'm Still Standing, and start marching around the house. So find what works for your kid. That's the key, and stick to it. We'll get through it, but we just need to be calm so our kids are calm.
That's great. So much tips, Michelle. Thanks for that. And I think
You're
it's
welcome.
very important that we model this ourselves as the parents and adults,
Yes.
that we need to
Yes.
give that sense of security, that so many uncertain things happening, but we have to teach them that there are ways that we can cope, and we don't just throw our hands up in the air and give up, during these troubled times.
Well,
So
resilient children have resilient parents. So model, we will get through it. This is like an intermission going on right now, but we're going to get through it for the long haul. It's down there in the end. But if you keep saying it, after a while, you'll believe it. Pretty soon it starts filtering to your child, and they need that so much. They need our calm presence and reassurance.
yeah, and I think we should just take it a day at a time, and
Yes.
see where we go after this thing is over. All right, so now I'd like to go to the questions that were sent in to us.
Okay.
There's a question here about parents. So how do we as educators gently push the parents to consult with a psychologist or psychiatrist? Years have passed and they still have not consulted, even when online booking is much easier these days. So I think the student has some aggressive behavior. The student has anger fits or tantrums, and they're noticing that this is growing in magnitude. So
Okay.
what are some strategies you would recommend to handle this?
Number one is that growing in magnitude is the huge red flag. So if you're a parent, because I know you're all over the plate on who's at this session right now, the first thing is maybe as educators, we can teach parents a real simple way that they need to contact you. And I call it the 2 index, TOO. Nobody knows your child better than you, parent. You've been watching your child, but every kid's going to have a bad day. But when you're seeing a change in your kid that lasts too long, that's too different, that's too unhealthy, that's spilling over into too many other areas, that's the moment when you say, I got to pick up the phone and help. Number two, educator, make it very, very easy for them to reach you. I mean, have multiple ways to do it. We did discover something really interesting because we were trying to figure out why parents don't reach educators. And what we discovered is as the child gets older, one of the things that comes with the parent is that the parent becomes more and more trenched in, I can't make a difference. I don't think it's going to help. What can I do? So half of it is helping the parent know you're not to blame. We're in this together. And it's maybe an email change going, I see a change in your child. I'm here for you. What's going on? And in fact, every educator out there right now, we've got to email every one of the parents saying, you know what? I'm concerned. We're all concerned. Is there something that's happening in your home right now? If there's one little thing that's different that you can help me know what's going on and what your child is enduring, because I'm not there to watch it. I care so much about your child. Let me know. The other thing, educator, if you're the one asking this question, I would continue to keep reaching out. I'm saying, here's the best way you can reach me. But starting with, let's figure out how to work together with this. It's a we thing. So the parent knows you're really trying to support that parent and we're in this as a twosome.
Yeah. So I think open communication is key. And, their parents are not in it alone. Teachers are not in it alone. We should just work together to ensure the best for our students.
Yes, yes, yes.
Another question we have here is, what should our focus be as parents who are trying to juggle work, running a household, when it comes to our children's education? I imagine it will differ for kids of different ages. So this parent has
listen, the number one thing I'm concerned about right now is mental health. If you get the mental health in order, the education will come. I think what we're seeing is, and I'm just going to talk for the United States a minute, but I just reviewed the stats from Ireland and China. And every single case has seen an upsurge in mental health, of stress, anxiety. We're seeing an upsurge in suicidology amongst our teens right now. I wouldn't be so concerned about the history lesson if the child is in absolute distress. So the first thing is, as a parent, let's remember this is temporary. We'll get through it. When our children are mentally strong, they're going to be able to rebuild and keep this going. If you can do anything at home, well, the most important thing, get books out. Just keep reading and reading with your child. Your child can read out loud. That's the most important thing. Put a sheet over a table and make it a tent. Every night at 7 o'clock, we're going to go under the tent. I'm talking with the little ones. The teens may think this is a little bit not workable, but seriously in life, just start reading together. Many of our kids, we're discovering now, have hit kind of a COVID wall. Almost every parent is saying they're just not motivated. I can't get them to stay intact. When your stress builds, the first thing you've got to keep in mind is that stress builds and empathy goes down, burnout is the outcome. And when the other thing is happening is your focusing abilities go down. So maybe the other thing is watch your child. What is the level of how long can he stay intact or concentrate without he's coming to get irritable? Think of it as a rubber band, parent. This is the key. Your job is to gently stretch your child's expectations or abilities without snapping them. Figure out where they are now. And if it's only 5 minutes, then go for 6 minutes tomorrow. If it's 30 minutes, go for 35 the next day. You gently, gently stretch, because many of the kids saying they're absolutely overwhelmed. I just don't know how to do anything, and they're giving up. And that's when you got to go back and say, no, sweetie pie, we've got this together. Let's just take it slower. Let's find that one little thing that you're concerned about, or let's get a hold of the teacher and make sure you got the directions right. And then we can do it. Maybe that's the way to go with it.
Yeah,
I apologize because I'm all over the plate with it, because every single issue is so different at home. You got to figure out what's going to work with you in your home and come up with why is the child struggling. And that's the way to go. And then the fascinating thing is, Mags, I just interviewed a whole bunch of kids and I said, what's the most important thing that your parents could be telling you right now? And it was fascinating because almost every kid said, I know sometimes they don't know what to say to me, but that's okay if they just sit down next to me and be calm with me and let me know that no matter what it is, we'll get through it, and they love me no matter what. That's what I need to know. That's what kids are craving right now. They're worried, they're concerned, and a lot of them aren't coming with you telling how worried they are because they don't want you to be worried. They're seeing your stress and your worries. So a lot of hugs, a lot of calmness, a lot of it's okay. We're going to get through it.
Yeah, there's nothing that a nice, warm, long hug could cure, And I think, based on my experience as a teacher, I've noticed also a lot of students putting pressure on themselves,
Yeah.
because we feel that this is what the parents want them to do. They want them to excel. They want them to do things perfectly. So I think your focus on mental health is very crucial. And sometimes parents and educators tend to address the symptom when the root cause really is that underlying mental stress that they're undergoing.
You know, Max, what's really interesting is that we're talking about kids right now, but each one of us is also facing the exact same thing. It's called burnout. And what happens in the cause of burnout? If we can empathize with ourselves a minute and have some compassion, we'll understand why the perfectionism that you just talked about is also mounting. The problem is, too often, burnout is caused by unrealistic expectations. They're too high. We keep mounting it on ourselves. We never step back and go, gosh, what do I need to do for myself? I just need to open the door and walk out for a minute, or I just need to sit for 5 minutes and breathe. And that's absolutely fine. I think we need to take care of ourselves right now because those unrealistic expectations that kids are also putting on themselves because they don't want to disappoint you. That in reality is what's going to, in the end, cause the anxiety and the stress. We're seeing just in the United States, again, I haven't been able to look at the stats that are coming from the Philippines. If you have some, please send them to me, but I've been trying to track them. But we just compared this year versus last year. 5 to 11-year-olds are now increasing going to emergency room visits for stress and anxiety, 25% higher than last year. 12 to 17-year-olds, depression and suicidology have increased 31%. So this is a huge crisis. Here's the other thing. Educators or parents, if you had a child prior to the pandemic who you knew there was a little more stressed or a perfectionist or had anxiety issues or fear issues, a crisis only amplifies pre-existing problems. So those are the kids you want to put on your list of those are the children who are going to be really vulnerable right now. Teachers, you got to have a lookout list of other people, other staff members who can also watch out for that child so that you've got this tight bond of, shrinking the village so that you can watch out for each other.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for that, Michelle. Now we have a question from an educator. How can we better support our students' parents or families during this crisis? What type of parent formation you think we should be offering them?
I think the most important, and I'm going to say based on, because almost every night I'm doing a webinar with some group of parents someplace in the world, and almost the same questions come up every single time. What can I do? I don't know what to do. What are some ways to help my child be calm? If those are the number one questions, and they're so honest and they're so loving and they're so concerned, what we need to do is maybe offer them ideas, because every kid's going to be a little different. First of all, what's your website look like as a school? I hope you have one, because the first thing is that website should have is here's a couple of ideas you want to try. I found one of the neatest ideas was a group high school in Chicago. What they did is videotape their students who were doing 1-minute video clips of simple ways to calm down. Now, the teachers had taught the kids the video, but you know what? Having it come from a kid is so much more valuable than having it come from us. So they put the kids on the website, or they also videoed the kids doing like breathing exercises or mindful meditation or all different kinds of strategies, put them on flash drives, and for some cases sent them home to the parents and had the kids do homework with the parents. You can do the same thing when you're doing Zoom lessons online. So I think the first thing is get the students involved, because very often the parents will listen if it's homework, or mom, you got to watch this because I made this really cool video. And it actually is a video on how to stay calm. Very often it's more for the parent to learn as opposed to just the child. Second of all, make it easy. Teachers, we've got to make it easy. Parents are overloaded. They're everything that they've got going, in addition to now they've got work at home. They're trying to do daycare at home. They're doing everything at home. In addition, they're now doing education at home. So make it easy for the parent, but maybe give them ideas that they can use.
Those are lovely ideas. You gave me a couple of ideas that I can do for my school, and I'm looking forward to sharing your videos and your articles to them as well. I think something as simple as that would be very helpful. We have a question here from another teacher. So what are some concrete steps that we can take to better support the mental well-being and health of our teachers and staff in our schools?
All right. Here's what we know. That I just did a huge session with Spokane Public Schools, and it was how to reduce burnout of staff. When I was trying to figure out where the heck do I come up with these ideas, I found the ideas, and they were at the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic. Your hospitals are doing this for your first responders. The doctors and the nurses are so burned out that they realized unless they supported their emotional needs, they weren't going to be successful and effective. We can use the same strategies. The first thing they did was make it very easy. They opened it up so that they gave support systems to, I'm saying the same thing could be doing for your teachers, but for the first responders, what they did is just posted, here's signs of burnout, so that there's an awareness level of what you're facing is normal. Everybody's got the same thing. And all of a sudden it became a conversation of, wow, I feel that same way too. Opportunities to connect. We know that one of the best ways to reduce burnout is what we're not allowed to do right now because we're all social distance and we're not connected with one another. So what they did is they found Zoom connection pieces. In a hospital, it was mass connection pieces, but it was every morning, if you need to, come on in and we'll just share, how's it going? So that you had the opportunity. The leaders would try to do anything they could to lower the expectations, not put on more to the staff. Right now, we've got more and more taking on, and teachers are at their edge right here. Sometimes what they were doing that they found is some counselors who were trained in mindfulness and meditation. What they did in some schools is say, here's some things you can teach the kids. But what they discovered is the best way to teach the kids is first teach the teachers mindfulness, meditation. Then the teachers were learning it because they hadn't learned it. It wasn't in our education blocks. Counselors learned it from their affective training or SEL skills. So what happened was Zoom classes were coming through. The teachers were learning from the counselors, and as a result, it helped them as well. Well, final one that was a fabulous idea is that some schools are doing teacher book clubs. They're reading just fun books. Doesn't make any difference what you read. Lightweight, for heaven's sakes, lightweight fiction. And what they found, it was just fun because it was zooming together, and it was the togetherness thing of connecting and just having simple little things to get lost in a book, which actually can build empathy and reduce stress.
That's great.
Again, dozens of ideas, but what I've seen across the country and across other states and countries is that they're finding ways to build this in because educators are now facing burnout, and we need to be realizing that we are becoming first responders to our students.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love those ideas. The book club, I think, is something that I would want to do in my school. I think we need
Me too. I'm with him, you and me.
Yeah. Let's have one together, Michelle.
Okay.
I'm sure the teachers would love that because it sometimes I think teachers also have that put that burden and pressure on themselves that they have to do more than what they're doing. I think as administrators, we need to remind them that it's okay to not be okay, but here are tools that can help you cope better with the situation, and we acknowledge the challenges.
I think it's really important to do one other thing, Mag. The reason I am saying all of these ideas is that when you are in burnout or when you're stressed, what happens and what goes is your cognitive capacities. You can't think as well. You can't come up with these ideas. So it's like somebody else is coming up with the ideas, or maybe in a faculty room of just making a list of here's things that you might want to try. Or have a moment of what one principal is doing is having a share session of having every staff member think about, hey, when you were back in the olden days, maybe it was pre-COVID or even back in your childhood, what was your go-to that helped you relax? And all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, I used to take a walk, or oh my gosh, I used to go and just, paint or draw or just journal it. It doesn't make any difference what you did, play the guitar. Sometimes what we've lost sight of, and our children have lost sight of, is things to go to that help them decompress. And the other thing is they're going to use those things the rest of their lives. Parents, one of the coolest things you can do, I mentioned it, but I'll mention it again, is hobbies. If you can start introducing hobbies to your children so they learn to enjoy their own company, it's a highly correlated trait of resilient children. It makes no difference what the hobby is, and it can't be what you like. It has to be what your kids like. Find what just helps them relax, and it can be a gold mine.
Hobbies are amazing, and I think it's the best time to learn them when you're cooped up at home.
Yeah.
And there's a question here from Grace Makati. She is a parent and also a psychometrician at the same university. And she'd like to ask, what is the best way to motivate a child or teenager who is currently on an online class because of this pandemic and finds himself or herself getting demotivated because of the said setup? So they don't have friends, which is something that teenagers look forward to the most, and children as well. And knowing that kids are used to interacting with each other physically, and now that they are detached from each other, how can we help them get more motivated?
I think the first thing is go to exactly what she pointed out. One of the things that reduces our stress and our burnout is empathy and personal connection. In fact, what we do know that maybe we've always thought of empathy as soft and fluffy. During this COVID, we've now realized it's one of the most crucial traits of helping us reduce mental health problems. And now what we did is take it away from our kids, and we did so because we were concerned about their safety and well-being, and that always goes number one. But I've seen educators and parents become pretty creative on helping kids as long as it's a ritual and a routine. For instance, educators, you may be in Zoom classes, but it's really hard for a kid to have personal connection. So what many teachers are doing is having one-on-one peer, that's your learning partner, that's your learning buddy. So when you're done with the class, what you then do is every kid has to have one. Parents, you can, if your teacher doesn't have them doing it, you can find a similar aged kid in that classroom or someplace else. And at the same time, they need something to look forward to. 3 o'clock every day or 10 o'clock in the morning every day. Hey, tune in with your friend and you're going to review your math facts, or you're going to read the book out loud to one another, or you're going to practice the hobby together. The first thing is knowing that there's somebody I can connect with can be enormously helpful. I'm seeing that there's some schools that are creating learning pods. They're not yes, you teach teacher in the large Zoom distance learning model. But in addition, what you do is that you break your class up into smaller learning pods so kids have time to just do like home base and partner up with each other. In terms of motivation, one of the most interesting studies just came out of China. And what they were doing is tracking kids who were seemed to be a little more resilient during COVID. And one thing they discovered, which was, we do already know, by the way, that it's a trait of resilience. In the book Thrivers that I wrote, I was trying to come up with the 7 most highly correlated character strengths of resilience and which are the ones that are teachable. That's what I'm going to be talking to you in the webinar coming up. But one of them is perseverance. You alluded to that one. What did China discover? Kids who have a growth mindset prior to COVID, or at least the teacher is emphasizing the growth mindset as opposed to fixed, were far more likely to stay motivated and endure. That meant the teacher is emphasizing, or the parent is emphasizing, yesterday you were here, today you're here. I know it's hard, but if you just put it up, it's the effort that matters. That fixed mindset, it's all locked into DNA, or it's all locked into my zip code, or it's all locked into how, if I'm an introvert or an extrovert, or what class I'm in, or how strong my IQ is. If you help the child learn a growth mindset model, that seems to be pivotal in terms of one strategy to boosting resilience in helping kids get through the huddle. By the way, there's some really interesting stuff that's now coming out of what does work. Which kind of traits did kids have prior to COVID that's helping them be more likely to endure and get over the bumps? And it's surprising, some of the kids who were struggling before COVID are doing fine now because they'd already been struggling prior to it. And they knew that, hey, it's a struggle, I'm doing it. It was the kids who were kind of helicoptered, who never had a struggle factor, are now facing like, gosh, what do I do? Because parents had been kind of, don't rescue them, parent, because this is the moment they need to know, I've got this, I can get through it. Resilient kids have agency.
That's so important, I think, for all parents to understand that, you know, when their child experiences a challenge, they shouldn't, you know, like pick them up and save them from that challenge, but maybe provide additional support, because that's what they'll need in order to be more resilient.
Yeah, the other thing you can do to add on to that, Mags, is and add on to the question before, is because there are challenges, and we're finding that many of the teens told me they're overwhelmed and so they're giving up. And if they're not overwhelmed with the entire thing, they don't realize it's just that one little stumbler or one little mistake. So if you look at a really good coach, you know, I look at football coaches or soccer coaches or rugby coaches, they don't say, do it all over again because you just blew it. They say, let's look at the one little thing you missed and let's practice that one little, you call it a stumbler for a little guy, or a mistake, and let's figure out how to rework it. And if you help the child just zero in on what's the one little thing, it will reduce the stress, because very often they get so overwhelmed with the whole thing, they want to give it up, when it's reality just one little thing that's causing the problem.
Great. So that's our job, to help them break it down into small, doable tasks so they don't get overwhelmed.
Chunk the task, chunk it.
And there's a question here about your book on selfie. So it deals with empathy and how that is diminished when students are self-absorbed or always focusing on themselves or their gadgets. Yep. In a world of self-absorption through social media and, you know, selfie-titis, we have people who are constantly taking selfies. How can we promote empathy to children, given that this is where we're at?
Well, number one is we be creative and intentional about it, and we can do it. Because I have seen more teachers and parents finding extraordinary ways. First of all, we do know that empathy needs feelings, right? That's the gateway. You can't be empathetic unless you go, he looks sad and she looks upset, and oh wow, he sounds frustrated. So we need to start intentionally talking feelings far more. Number two, parents, I'm talking to you a minute here, we're very concerned on worldwide what's happening is our kids were really focusing on digital devices. Now they're becoming addicted to them, even more so. So I know that they are lifelines to your children's friends and they need them right now. But you can make some rules. And the rule is you may use the digital device if it's with someone, if you can see their face, because empathy will still read if it's face to face, if it's on Zoom, or it's on Skype, or it's let's FaceTime with grandma. Parents, let's FaceTime with grandma, but watch her face and you'll know when it's time to hang up, because she sounds tired or she looks tired. So you start priming them that way. Books are another avenue, because we do know that children's literary fiction in particular can be ones that boost empathy. So be picky on the kinds of books that you have your children be reading right now. First of all, they need books for one reason, and that is books can heal children. So you find what's called teachers bibliotherapy. But many of your children have endured grief. A grandma has died, a parent has died. Find books that deal with grief that are appropriate for that particular age. It can be a glorious counseling technique for the child to read it and go, he made it, so can I. But the second thing is books can also help the child step into the shoes of the character and go, how would I feel if that happened to me? That's empathy. Third, parents, one of the best untapped ways to reduce stress and boost empathy is giving back, not getting, giving. So ask your child, who are you concerned about? Who are you concerned? The neighbor next door. Why? Because she's all by herself and she's elderly and she doesn't have any friends and I bet she's lonely. Oh, I'm so glad you thought about her. What can you do to help her? Well, maybe we can bake some cookies. Good idea. Then what we can do with them? We can drop them off at her doorway, knock on the door. I bet it'll make her happy. Oh my gosh, that's empathy. That's giving back. That's baking. So you're helping your kid learn a hobby. It's a win-win-win. Those are the moments. By the way, the other thing that we do know resilient children use is prayer. Fascinating. So pray, books, music, face-to-face connection, talking feelings. Those are scientific proven strategies. We just weave them into what we're doing and we take it up and our kids will be okay.
Those are awesome tips, Michele. And I think it's a good way to get kids, you know, from self-absorption to self-giving, really giving themselves to other people. We have a participant who raised her hand. I'd like to call on Ashley to ask her question.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Hi, Ashley.
Yes, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, my connection's not very good, so I had to turn my camera off. But yeah, thank you for being here with us, Dr. Borba. Good morning or good evening, wherever you are.
It's good evening to me. It's good
um,
morning to you.
yeah, but thank you for being here with us. So I work in a school. I'm an educator, and so I wanted to know what your thoughts are about how to measure these character strengths, these skills, to build character, because it's so easy. Well, it's relatively easier to measure academic skills, but how do we measure these skills of character? Yeah, if you would like to speak about that,
Ashley, I
thank
love
you.
what you said. And I'm going to say this, and it's kind of like a long-winded answer, but let me tell you what I did. When I wrote, it's called Thrivers. When I wrote Thrivers, this is the one that Mag was talking about. The first thing I did at the beginning is, other than identify the 7 character strengths that are the most highly correlated to resilience as well as peak performance. It's not either or, it's both. The second thing I did was, at the very beginning, there is a tool for you that you can actually measure by, here's some traits of kids who are high in each of the strengths. Now, what you then be able to do is use that as here's a guide for this year or this month or this month. Because at the beginning, what you can do is just kind of get an index, and you can also discover who in the class is high and who is low in it. The other thing that I think is enormously, what parents have told me is really helpful, is that there's a core index, a core asset survey. I'll give these to a man, and he can also download them so you can have copies of them. But it's an actual survey where you can go through and figure out the child's learning strengths, modalities, what their character strengths are, what their assets are. Parents, it's a gold mine, because each of our kids, I have 3 kids, they're different as night and day. It's like Russian roulette on what you get for a kid. But if you can figure out where their strengths are, it is the core of resilience. That's the who of the child. And then what you could do is begin to help the child build that self-awareness of their strengths. Obviously, you're going to help them with their weaker areas, but too often we focus on the weaknesses and not the strengths. Teachers, one of the things I'm going to be talking about during the webinar is that once you identify the strengths, one of the coolest things that happened, Ashley, is that with the whole school started index cards, 1 per child. You can also do this digitally, but they were on pass it on cards. Each teacher would figure out, particularly kids who are really struggling. You spend the whole year trying to figure out what the kids' strengths are. What are their learning styles? What do they enjoy? What the teachers did was write down the strengths, and at the end of the year, they passed them on to next year's teacher. And I went, that's brilliant. So it's
Great.
there. We've covered it. When I wrote that book, I spent hours trying to figure out and interviewing teachers, because the beginning of each chapter in Thrivers is visiting a school who is doing something brilliantly simple on how they're teaching the character strength, from a refugee camp in Beirut to one in all over the world. I found absolutely brilliant teachers doing brilliant things on weaving things in.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So let's build on the strengths of our students. And
Yeah.
by the way, just as an addition for all the educators here, we have a 20-page guide for educators that comes with Thriver. So once you purchase the book, you can take advantage of that guide that Michele has given us, and it'll help you promote resilience and thriving in your students. So we're excited to share that with you. Since you registered with us, you will have a copy, and I think a lot of good will come out of it if we really apply it in our own setting. There's a question here from Catherine Joyce Ang. I'm very curious about the bookshelf behind Dr. Borba. May I ask what her favorite parenting books are, or books she recommends for parents, young kids below 10 years old, aside from those that you have written? Do you have any favorites, Michele?
Besides those I've written, oh my gosh, it just keeps going. Boy, you really caught me off here.
There's so many books there. It's pretty hard to choose your favorite.
Well, listen, anything by Thomas Lacona, I absolutely love. He's my favorite personal friend of mine, educating for character. He's also written a book on how to kindness in children and how to raise a moral child. Thomas Lacona, would be
Tom
one that I would strongly put on the top of your list, because I think that a lot of parenting books these days have great little things in it, but they're not science driven. And you've
Yes.
got to have somebody who's really, otherwise what happens to us is we get frustrated trying to figure all this stuff out. If you really are a parent, I know this is by me, but this is like, it's the big book of parenting solutions. I asked parents, what kind of book would you want? And she said, I want it to look like a cookbook. So it's a cookbook. It has the 101 problems that face parents with the science-backed ways to address them. So there's another one idea. I love it. Madeline Levine, Levine. I think she's a gold mine. I can't find her book, but I think it's down here. So, well, she wrote The Price of Privilege that I think is brilliant. She's got a new one. Anything by Madeline Levine. She just is a brilliant, brilliant woman. She's a clinical psychologist, and she's studied a lot on, this one would be for affluence, but I don't think this is as appropriate as her other one. There's one that's called Ready or Not. Same thing, Madeline Levine. I think it's not the book, it's the writer that I go to, because I know they're seeped in working in schools and having a counseling center. They've been with Untangled is a gold mine. Lisa D'Amour. Yale, incredible. Once again, all these people have PhDs. They're incredible professors. And Lisa D'Amour used to work in a girls' school. So this is a gold mine too. Thanks for asking. I'm now going to rearrange my bookshelf here.
Thanks for that, Michelle. And you know what? We were fortunate to have Dr. Tom Lecona in our university 2 years ago. So
yeah,
it's great that he was your top of mind. We were so fortunate to have him. Of course, thanks to Mandarin Toy, who also brought him here to the Philippines. It would be awesome if both of you could be in the same auditorium at the same time.
That is he's like a brother. He's such an incredible, I love Dr. Lecona. It's at the top of my list, always.
All right. So thanks so much, Michelle. We've learned so much. We only have a few minutes left for our get together. So in case you have any other questions, feel free to type them in now. I will ask one last question from the ones that were sent in to us. So this one talks about bullying, cyberbullying. So what are some strategies or tips you can give to parents and teachers to help their children or students who are victims of cyberbullying? And how can parents and educators teach children how to react or what to do when they see someone else being bullied?
Thing you want to do is the other end of the spectrum. The best way to stop bullying is not with the bully and the victim. It's with the bystanders who are watching, and make those the upstanders. In that case, what you'd have to do, teacher, is allow a safe way for them to report. What we have discovered is in school bullying, one of the best ways to reduce it is actually have reporting boxes where anybody can anonymously write a note and say, I'm really concerned about my friend because this is where it happened and when. Now you can't because of cyberbullying and it's online, but you can say, really strongly, teacher, please, in this classroom, whether it's online or off, we build each other up, we don't take each other down. And if you see anybody who is doing anything damaging, mean-spirited to another friend, I expect you to report it. You may report it anonymously. By the way, you'll always get more kids reporting anonymously than putting their name, because it's scary. Bullies have a lot of power. And then what you do is, then you can do it on a one-on-one. You don't announce it to the entire group, but you then conference that child, that bully individually and say, here's what's going on. You don't ever divulge who reported them, but you do instead say, I know what's going on. You can say a number of students have, and I'm concerned about it. I'm watching you. And your privileges will be lost if you don't turn this around. I think that's a glorious thing.
Yeah, being clear about that message that we don't, we build each other up and we don't take each other down. And I think if that clear, crystal clear to the teacher and the students, bullying can be prevented. I just wanted to share with you a comment from one of our participants, from Mikey. He said, Dr. Borba, what you said about starting with the parents or the teachers really resonated with me. My question was about creating a mindfulness or kindness curriculum, and you already
Yes.
gave interesting tips. So I just want to thank you for helping us just by starting this important conversation. And I look forward to learning more about how we can imbibe mindfulness and kindness in classrooms and homes. That's from Mikey.
Oh, I hope you're going to be part of the webinar, because we're going to be talking about that, because it's so easy. It doesn't cost money. It's so scientifically proven. And I will say the absolute most important thing, in fact, I learned so much about mindfulness in Tibet. The monks were unbelievable on sitting me down and showing me how to do this correctly. And I went, oh my gosh, I've been doing it wrong. But the most important thing they said is you just got to keep practicing it. You got to practice it over and over and over and over and over. And too often what the teens told me we do wrong, we teachers, is we teach it like on Monday and we don't keep practicing it every day. The best things I've seen is like a daily, maybe 5 minutes at the beginning of every single day. We do, or 3 minutes at the beginning of every single day, we practice it. And that would be a fabulous thing for you to also teach the child, then video it and send it home so that the kid could teach the parent. What we're finding is that resilient kids have protective buffers, and too many of our children don't, or they've been taught these things. In all fairness, we have taught them, but we may not have done it enough so it becomes internalized and becomes a habit, because parents, the goal is for the kid to be able to do it without you. That's when you go, I did something right as the parent. You got to give them lots of possibilities. Each one of your kids may be different on what they need, but in today's uncertain, anxious world, we have got to do a better job for our kids.
All right, awesome. Now, as we wind down, what's in store for parents and educators who will be attending the conference, and how will it benefit them and their children or students? Perhaps you can address this to those who are not yet sure if they should attend the conference.
Oh gosh, guys, it is going to be, well, first of all, you're going to get what I think I never had when I went through Ed Block days. And parents, what is resilience? What do kids really need? It's going to be science backed. First, you're going to get what the research says does promote it. And then what you're going to get, I promise you, the remainder of the 2 days, dozens of simple, practical strategies that you can instantly take away for age by age. Here's what to do with bigger kids. Here's what to do with little kids. Here's what to do with at home. Here's what to do in your classroom. Here's what to do if you're an educational leader. Because all of these, what I was so picky when I wrote this book of going around and finding only proven, practical, no cost strategies. These aren't programs, I guarantee. Who's got time to do one more program? But if you keep doing these, they're highly, highly correlated to be effective and helping our kids not only become more resilient, which is a thriver to me as a kid who's got that I got this kind of a feeling, but also be more mentally prepared for life. You'll see that I'm going to break it down into 3 levels so that you're going to see strategies of heart, mind, and will. And the other thing that you're going to see is that you're going to learn what those 7 habits are. But most importantly, I hope every one of you walks away with, here's exact things I can do tonight in my home or tomorrow in my classroom. That's the goal. And almost everybody who's been through it says that's what they get when they walk out. You're going to be overwhelmed with it all, but you do not try to do all of that. I want to give you dozens of ideas so that you can choose a few and then you can go, I can do this one.
All right, that's very exciting. So I'm so excited for next week as we learn more from you. To all our participants, make sure you share the registration link so that they can get the early bird discount up until tomorrow. Share it with as many friends and family members as possible, because I think mental health is something that we really need to focus on and develop, especially during these difficult times. And if you want to grab a copy of Michelle's book, we have a partnership with Fully Booked. Get 10% discount if you just input FB Thrivers 2021. Make sure you order your copy from April 13 to 18 so that you can avail of the discount code. There are lots of messages here thanking you, Dr. Borba. They learned so much the past hour. And now they're buying the book using the promo. Mita Victa is mentioning that she's buying the book, adding to the cart. Feel free to share that. I think it would be a good present for friends as well. So feel free to do that. But remember, the promo code is only active from April 13 to 18. So if you want to avail of that, order your book maybe after the webinar on the 13th. So we will see you next week, April 13 and 14.
Meg, are we going to get to take a picture of all of us?
Of course, we will.
Yeah, we got to take a selfie.
Please, Dr. Michele wrote unselfie, but I think for today, she won't mind if we take a selfie with her digitally. So please turn on your cameras if you'd like to join.
Turn on your cameras, guys. I could tweet this out saying, what have you all been doing? I got to talk to the Philippines all night. It was more fun.
All right. So when you're ready, I'm going to take the photo. So just keep smiling. We have 2 pages here. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, and another page. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, sorry, one more. 1, 2, 3,
fun.
Smile. Okay, so thank you so much, Michele, for spending some time with us. I know it's nighttime there where you're from.
And Nags, you're wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be with you in this Zoom call. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
Me too.
Post-pandemic. I'll take you out to a nice restaurant here. I hope you like Japanese food.
Oh, I love Japanese food. Love it.
That's where I brought Tom Licona last time, and he loved it. So thank you so much. So thank you to all the participants who are here. We will see you next week, and we hope that you stay safe, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Nags, you got to make sure that you send me those pictures. How are you going to send me them? I want those pictures. This was so fun. You're such a great moderator. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michele. That means so much coming from you. I've watched all your interviews online, like on the Today Show.
Gosh,
so pressured. I was like, oh my gosh. I actually dreamt of you last night, Michele. Believe it or not.
I was like,
oh my gosh. Yeah, I was like, I woke up in the middle of the night and my dream was we were talking and I was so unprepared. And I was like,
oh no, you're just a natural. You're wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Michele,
and I'm so excited to see you next week.
Hey, it's man. Look who came.
I'm still alive. I've been here the whole time. Michele, do you have just one more minute to do a video advertisement or invitation? Let me see. Elise, Miles, are you ready for setup? And then we will
yes, sir.
You, Michele, with a minute or so.
Jeez, man. Jeez. Look at that.
Have you had dinner already? It's kind of late there. Not yet?
Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So.
Why are you going to take me to dinner, man?
We're taking a video of this whole thing.
All right. Are we talking or I have to talk by myself?
Talk by yourself. You can look at the camera and then invite the 110 million Filipinos to join us on April 13, 14 here. 12, 13 there, but here it's going to be April 13 and 14.
And what are you calling it?
Thrivers raising mentally healthy kids during troubled times.
Okay. How long do you want it to be?
Mags? A minute or so?
A minute is
Okay.
fine.
A minute is
Okay.
fine.
You can say mabuhay if you like. That's what.
I can't do that. I'm terrible. We'll mess that up like you wouldn't believe. You'll get nobody to show up.
All right. Just
God.
whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hello, Philippines. It's Michele Borba. And oh, I hope that you come on April 13th and 14th. We're going to be talking about how to raise thrivers, kids who can succeed and make it through troubling times like a pandemic, as well as the rest of their lives. Every idea is going to be tried, true, practical. Things you could use at home, things you can use at school. Everything is evidence-based, but we do know it's that thrivers are made, not born. If there's anything we've learned about the pandemic, it's an uncertain world, and our kids are going to need a different set of skills. And that's what we're going to be talking about. Ideas are easy. I swear to you, they're easy. But most importantly, they're going to make a difference on how your kids in the Philippines turn out. Make sure you come. Thanks.
Awesome. That was great.
Great. Okay, so maybe since we're ending, I know we had a selfie earlier. Miles, Elise, if you want to join the selfie, this is a very rare opportunity.
Michelle,
for us. So-
this is the whole team. This is it. These are the 4 hardworking people who are going to make the April 13, 14 happen.
This is Elise.
Thank
She's
you.
the one who made a
Who
video.
made those videos of the camera, of the typewriter?
Oh, that's
Abby.
another admin staff that we
Oh,
have.
they were so great. I went, oh my gosh, that's clever. Thank you. And the Thriver girl going across. Man, you got to send me those. I can use those. So I'd get some credibility.
Sure. we'll send them to you and you can say it's all the way from the
Thank you. No,
Philippines.
they were really, really classy. Thank you. Do you
Good.
need anything else, man? Do you need anything else to entice people?
Well, so far we're good. Mags will tell you.
Yeah, no, we're just gonna promote it like anything. Like we'll
I
promote
know,
it on our social
I'm
media.
sure it's a long haul to try to get anybody. So thank you, man.
Yeah, it's pretty challenging just because I think a lot of people are still, like wrapped up in their own work and
Here they
from
are.
sitting, and it's a weekday, but we have gotten a lot of participants. We're hoping to get more with your video, and with this, we'll share it with the public, and
Yeah.
hopefully they all sign up. So let's just have one quick selfie. So smile. All right.
Great.
Thanks so much, Michelle.
Michelle, thank
Guys,
you.
thank you. Stay
Thank you very
well.
much.
We'll see you
Man,
next
go to
week.
bed. Stay well.
You
Everybody
too.
make sure that man takes care of himself.
Yeah, we'll make sure of it. I'm locking him in his room. So
Yeah.
he stays there.
Yeah, I want to report daily. Man, are you taking care of yourself? Thank you.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks so much,
Michelle.
Michelle.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.